Hey guys, and welcome to an overview video of what's new in Beta 3 for Cloud Pirates. I talked a decent amount about gameplay in the first couple of videos. The comments I had in that original video are still valid. It's still a fast-paced, extremely fun game with a fantastic art style that I really love. But as with all beta games, there will still be further development in between the tests and new stuff added to test. So what exactly is new in this one? The tech tree got fleshed out with a ton of new ships, but not just brand new ships, new classes of ships as well. We've also got the captain system, we've got the crew system, and we've got the expedition system. So this video though is going to be focused more around a little bit of a class overview of not just the brand new ships, but also the ones that were in the first test as well. So let's start with probably my favourite line of ships in the game, and that is the medium assault cruisers. That's the Gale, the Hurricane, the Whirlwind, and the Typhoon. These ships are there for damage, make no mistake about it. Their weaponry is all designed around short range engagements. Damage drops off a little bit over range. The frontal cannons as well as the broadsides, they're effectively just shotguns. They're designed to be up close and personal, often 1 versus 1, dishing out a ridiculous amount of damage. But also, since they're a medium ship, they're a perfect blend of manoeuvrability. They're smaller than heavy battleships, but also with more survivability than the light Corvettes. Properly upgraded, the medium assault cruisers can take a ridiculous beating and survive, while pushing out some insane damage. There are very few ships that can keep up with the damage that this class pumps out. The light torpedo clipper like the Thunder, Glint, Lightning Bolt and Meteor, however, are very much the hit and run class of ships. They are effectively the motor torpedo boats of old, zipping around the battlefield, dropping torpedoes and then escaping away before any real gunfire comes their direction. But with it being a light ship, it doesn't take a lot of punishment to take these things down. However, with it being a light ship, it's got a special ability that takes less damage the faster it moves, and all of its abilities are focused around this, slowing enemies down, speeding yourself up to try and open up distances. Its small size can also make it insanely difficult to hit, so dodging in and out of larger ships to escape can actually be a very valid tactic. A torpedo volley from one of these things can be devastating and deal huge damage to anything it hits. It's also a prime choice for attacking enemy treasure ships in either the treasure hunt game mode or in the escort game mode. It's a tough ship to get right and to play well, but if you nail it, you can be a major thorn in the side of the enemy. The next class is the medium cruiser. So that's the training, which goes on to the veteran, the jeweler, and then the gladiator. These are pretty much what I would call the anti-aircraft ships. Now, I know this sounds very strange, but the way these things are set up mean they're very good for clearing small, annoying light ships from around your fleet. The ships themselves, they're fairly manoeuvrable, but they can take a hit as well with them being medium-sized ships. But their special thing is that all of their shots are self-guided. One of the problems with larger ships and, well, basically with larger ships dealing with smaller ships, is that it can be very hard to hit due to their speed and manoeuvrability. But this is where the medium cruisers come in. Their homing shots can provide effective and consistent fire onto smaller ships like torpedo clippers, or later on some of the other ships that can pull range and cloak. If they cloak, then they can receive more damage when the cloak deactivates, but if you can deactivate it by doing damage to them, they've got to wait for it to recharge again. So that can be a very good way of exposing them and stopping them from doing the hit and run tactics. The medium cruisers are there for mid to long range supporting fire, providing that constant barrage of fire onto anything it can hit while keeping the skies clear of the smaller ships. I've had a lot of success keeping light torpedo clippers and things like that away from the fleet with this thing. Definitely is where this class shines. Moving on from that though, you get into the more specialist roles, I guess. It's where that you're more than just being there to shoot stuff. You get some of the more advanced and specialised styles of play. I want to start with the light support corvettes, the Victoria, Hope, Saviour and Messiah. These are your healers and should always be a priority target if you ever see one on the battlefield, because they are hugely strong at what they do, but they also have a really interesting mechanic to them. Pretty much all of their skills, they're AoE based, which are fairly strong on their own. However, cannon fire from the light support corvettes powers up their reactors, makes those skills more effective the higher the reactor level is when you activate the ability. Whether it's a large burst heal or a heal over time, these healers can turn the tide of a battle, and if you don't take them off the field immediately, they can decide the outcome of any battle. Sticking close to your healers forces the enemies to fight close to your fleet and increases just how effective their heal is. These things are also light ships, so the faster they move, the less damage they take, so never stop moving. If you want to kill one of these things, slow it down. They take so much more damage, it's unreal, making them so much easier to kill. On the other side of the support ships you also have the more offensive focused Hammer, Furnace, Volcano and Skidbladnir. The engineering frigates they're called. These are the medium sized ships, so again balanced in the small size of light ships and the raw hit points of the heavies, but like the light support corvettes they have a similar mechanic to their firing. Shots landed will charge up the reactor, allowing for the deployment of turrets that do things like fire missiles, long range fire with long range turrets, slowing ships down, increasing friendly damage, healing in a certain area of basically any of your friendlies in this area. There is a huge amount of customization you can do with this ship class, whether you want to go pure offense, pure defense, or a pure sort of team buff build, or whether you want to do a mixture of these three. If you're in deathmatch, for example, if you manage to get control of the centre of the map, building up a turret wall or team buffing station can be hugely beneficial to your team, especially if you've got 1 or 2 light support corvettes helping you out. You can seriously fortify a very solid location for your damage dealers to fight around, and a well played support ship can be a jack of all trades, but master each of them, supporting their really heavy damage dealers while dishing out some pretty heavy damage of their own. Talking of those damage dealers, the heavy battleship is pretty much the epitome of that. Hit points and damage combined in one very potent package. The Rock, Bastion, Citadel and Colossus, they're top of the line when it not only comes to size, but also the amount of hit points they have to burn through. But combine that with the damage output of these ships, they are really designed to be in the middle of the fight, soaking up, dishing out damage, buffing their cannons with abilities, even with the ability to pull back and heal up. However, all of these hit points and damage comes with a trade-off, and that is for maneuverability. The battleships can be outmaneuvered by almost any other class in the game, to the extent where you really don't want to be on your own in this thing. Anything getting behind you with your lack of rear guns really does make you extremely vulnerable. It's almost impossible to get out from this position. However, if you like being in the thick of the action blazing away, look no further than the heavy battleships. But then on the other end of the spectrum, you have the long range support ships, the heavy Cyber Galleons. The Vigilant, ironically named Nimble, Striker and Oracle are designed not to be in the fight as often as they can. They're designed to be able to sit at long range, pouring fire in from a safe distance. With them being a heavy ship, they are about as manoeuvrable as a bathtub, so anything getting close to them, it's pretty much game over. But at long range, with the ability to fit cannons that can slow targets on hit, allowing for follow-up shots to hit easier and easier, the damage output from the heavy Sniper Galleons, especially when combined with modules that can switch off the targets, the target that they hit, their modules, you can set them on fire, or you can be buffed by something like the Overlord, which, I mean, that really makes them something to be feared. Do not sit in front of their guns for too long, because they are going to remove chunks of your health every single time they hit you. Now, talking of the Overlord, this is the tier 4 and only heavy strategic battleship. Think of it like an artillery from Armoured Warfare, except with way more teeth. You can drop into an overhead view and strategically call in giant lasers, which when combined can do a ridiculous amount of damage. Or you can drop buffs on friendlies in exactly the same way. The cooldown reduction from the Swarm Rush can keep a teammate's cannons firing for an extremely long time, especially if you drop it on something like a Void Walker or even the Snipers, the Oracle that I just talked about. Keeping their damage output up is just as important as your own damage. However, using the AoE damage to reveal cloaked ships like Black Widows is also a huge help, as it can save your allies' life. It's a really good counter to that. A very well played Overlord really can change the tide of a battle. Now, the cloaked ships like the Black Widow and also the tier 3 Doom are the light stealth corvettes. They have another really unique mechanic, which is that if you take no damage for 5 seconds, you will cloak up and become completely invisible. While you're flying around, you will build up a reactor energy to charge your base ability. The purpose of this ship is the Assassin, picking a target and annihilating it in a devastating strike. The base ability converts all available reactor energy into a damage buff, giving a huge amount of extra damage to your forward and broadside cannons. But when combined with abilities like an EMP to shut off all of their modules, missiles doing huge damage, this thing is a true assassin. Flying around, waiting, watching, ready to strike. When you see one of these things behind you, prepare yourself for the incoming damage. Now, I also mentioned the Void Walker a little bit earlier. That is a heavy dual battleship. It's an offshoot of the Colossus battleship and the Flow medium interceptor cruiser. It combines the tanking capability of a battleship with the outright damage and the laser guns that the flow boasts. The damage output of this thing is, quite frankly, pretty scary and should be destroyed as soon as you see it, because it's going to punish you if you don't. With modules that can either buff your damage, boost its survivability, there's a whole bunch of ways of playing the Void Walker. You can go glass cannon all damage, a hybrid damage and tank build. Your own personal playstyle is going to matter a lot here, and the ship can be customised to suit that playstyle. But make no mistake, a Void Walker is a powerful adversary in the right hands. The branch that the Void Walker comes off is the medium interceptors. You've only got 2 ships in that class right now, which is the Flow and the Quicksilver. These things are designed to leech off the enemy team, quite literally, with its base ability being one that teleports the interceptor behind the target ship, linking it to the enemy ship, weakening the target and buffing itself. This special link gives you a significant boost to your own ship and a debuff to the enemy, so it's important to keep that running at all times. If the ship dies that you're linked to, it resets the cooldown on that link module. It allows you to jump from ship to ship to ship, destroying everything in your path. It's not the easiest thing to play since you are also a very fast medium ship, meaning that often you jump behind your target and momentum takes you in front of it, so be very careful. It's not the most durable of ships to begin with. However, with the correct modules you can absolutely just do a ton of damage, so this thing is something again that really you can't afford to leave on the battlefield if you do see it. However, unlike the squishy nature of something like the Flow, we have the heavy reinforced galleons, which is the Windfall, Calamity and Cataclysm. These things are not only designed to initiate the fight, but also still be left standing by the end of it, or cause the enemy to spend a significant amount of time taking you down, with modules that not only buff your survivability, like converting the damage output of the ship into repairing your hull, to AoE modules that also debuff the enemy. Played well, one of these things can be a thorn in the side of the enemy team. A very good damage output, self-healing, AoE debuffing. It could be the turning point of a fight when one of these things appears on the field. Now, on the same note of tanking but also decent damage outputs, you have the heavy defensive galleons, the Vitella and the Styrojoy. However, unlike the heavy reinforced galleons, these defensive ones focus more on its own survivability and that of its own team. The damage output once again is pretty ferocious, but it has a special mechanic to it, which is that your cannon fire will cool down the abilities faster, so the damage output of the ship actually becomes part of its main tanking and buffing of the friendly team. It's designed to be in the middle of a fight, dishing out damage, cooling down these abilities, keeping those up as much as possible. It's a very formidable ship when used right, but it's definitely not the easiest to get a hang of, because overextending in these ships is easier than in most. However, if flying smaller fast ships is more your thing, but you also want to heal, look no further than the light support clippers, the Radiance and the Luminary. These things can zip around the battlefield, popping up wherever and whenever they are needed, putting their heals around with their beam cannons. These little things benefit from the light ship trait of when they're flying around at speed they take reduced damage, so slowing these things down with modules or cannons with slow effects is going to be the easiest way to take them down. If left alone, these ships do have the healing potential to turn a fight. I've seen it many times where a Luminary zipping around unnoticed keeps a target after target from dying. It's a fantastic little ship, great fun to fly, but more than that, it is hugely effective. The light torpedo corvettes like the Rattle Blaze and the Heart of Gold are there for the AoE enthusiast. Previously called mine corvettes, they're there to do a lot of damage to a lot of ships at once. With the same mechanic as some of the other medium support ships of charging the reactor with the cannon fire, the light torpedo corvettes can unleash waves of damage, hitting every single enemy ship in the area, with a reactor charge being used to buff the damage as well as being a cost to actually unleash the damage. Hitting enemy formations at close range with something like the Heart of Gold can net you a ton of damage, but when backed up with a team that is also following up on that AoE damage, this ship can really flip the course of a fight. The AoE damage can mask any focus fire you're about to pour onto a target, baiting out defensive skills, confusing the healers. I've seen good players do absolutely incredible things in these ships, but that being said, they are insanely difficult to get right. Just like the Whisperwind, the medium distance support frigate, the only one of its class. If you want all the advantages of a healer, but find that the smaller light ships are just too squishy for you, then look no further than the Whisperwind. With the ability to sit at medium range, easily missed by ships in the middle of a brawl, you can heal from afar with cannon fire. But with modules not only that heal your friendly ships, but ones that can buff them as well, the Whisperwind doesn't have quite the survivability the smaller ships do, because it doesn't have great hit points, nor the bonus that the smaller ships get to the damage reduction. So it does need that medium range for its own survivability. Plus with travel time on the cannons, you're going to have to be on the spot with your heals, or else your target could easily be dead by the time you arrive. It's a very difficult ship to get right, but master it and you could be an asset to your team. And finally, you have the Aurora. This ship is there to be basically a light mobile buffing machine. The base ability is able to put a mark on a friendly, and then abilities tied to you and also the marked ship, with the ability to equip modules that increase yours and your marked ship's damage, reduce cooldowns of yours and their guns, or even use certain cannons that's going to increase the duration of the marks. You can be the difference between winning and losing a fight. The damage buff from your ship comes into effect after the damage buffs from the friendly marked ships, so they are already buffed, for example, and then you're buffing them even further by making their weapons cool down less quickly, plus do more damage. Pair that up with a heavy damage dealer like the Voidwalker, and the damage this thing can push out with you supporting it is insane. But with the ability to fit cannons that home in on the target and do pretty decent damage as well, not only can you help your team take down the big ships very quickly by buffing your team, you can actually dish out some crazy damage on your own, especially if you're forcing off smaller ships like the Meteors or Luminaries. The Aurora is a hugely underestimated ship, and one that when used properly is very, very good. So that's an overview of all the ship classes available in the third closed beta test of Cloud Pirates. If you check the description below, there's a whole bunch of codes in there. These should get you access also for the next closed test as well. If you use the bit.ly link in there, sign up, go to the profile, input the code there, you should get access for the next stage of the testing, since this test actually ends this evening. I'm having a blast with this game and it is addictive as hell. I know a bunch of people that are literally just addicted to it now. I can't wait for this game to go live, and I can see me doing build reviews, ship reviews in the future. If they play their cards right, they could have an absolute winner on their hands here. It is incredible. I wish I could talk more about some of the newer features like crew skilling, captain skilling, expeditions. However, they weren't really working for me fully, and I mean, you saw in the footage of the Gladiator the crazy slow projectiles on the guns. That was actually being caused by the crew. So there are a few things, but you know, that's what a beta test is for, to find the bugs to fix them for the next one. Hopefully I can bring you more on that from the next test. However, for now it's been a blast making this video. I've had to grind up to each of the ships shown in the footage. Obviously there's accelerated progress, but there's also not, the servers aren't up all the time. All the ships in the footage are the tier 4 versions, so I've got to play a lot this test, and it has been so much fun. As always though, many thanks for watching. Feel free to hit that like button, sub if you like my content, and I shall see you in the next video.